One afternoon at Red Mesa, Boss Calder was seen riding into the Apache camp with 12 guns on his back. He had come to take me, the ugly girl he had been touting all over the West, for a forced marriage. Only the cowboy he brought with him didn't know that Calder was setting up a game, and I was the most important pawn. When Ethan lifted the cloth from my face, all the words Calder had said in the past 7 years came crashing down. And the moment he saw me, I whispered the words he feared most. Don't trust the man who brought you here. That one word was enough to start a war that Calder had kept hidden all his life. That afternoon, I was cleaning out some old saddles behind the camp. The air was hot and dusty, and the wind blew sand into my eyes. I thought it would be a normal day here, riding horses, helping the elders light fires, checking traps, nothing special. When a tribe boy ran up to report a caravan of people coming in, I thought it was just someone passing by asking for water. But looking outside, I saw red dust rising thicker than usual. Lots of horses, lots of people. And right in the middle was the face I least wanted to see, Boss Calder. He dismounted in the same old way, noisy, full of false authority. I stood a few meters away, still holding the saddle in my hand, not saluting, not ducking, just looking. He looked at me too, but it was like he was checking for something forgotten in the storeroom. "Come here, Naelli." I didn't move. The Apache standing around didn't move either. No one here considered him to be in a position to give orders. Behind him was a strange cowboy, pushed off his horse. I didn't know who he was. I just saw him standing straight, looking around slowly and carefully, not like Calder's type of man. Calder pointed at the cowboy, then spoke as if giving orders. "He's going to marry you. We'll have the ceremony here." I just laughed when I heard it. The marriage with him was never about me. It was about the land in my name. I'd known that since I was 13. A soldier stepped forward, grabbed my hand, wanting to pull me out in front of everyone. My instinct made me pull my hand back, but he still held on tight. Before I could do anything, the cowboy stepped forward, grabbed the soldier's wrist, and broke it. There was a dry crack. He fell to the ground, cursing loudly. The air fell silent. The Apache immediately raised his bow. Calder's soldiers also drew their guns. If one of them shook his hand, blood would be spilled right in front of me. The chief raised his hand to signal a stop. Everyone stood still. Calder gritted his teeth, looked at me, then at the cowboy. "Lift the bandana over her face. Marry her, and that's it." I straightened up, took a breath. I wasn't afraid of strangers looking at me. I was just afraid Calder would lie again to turn everyone against me. The cowboy approached. He didn't rush. He didn't look spiteful or judgmental. He just raised his hand, touched the edge of the bandana. My hand tightened slightly. Not out of shame or fear, but because I didn't want Calder to get what he wanted. The bandana was lifted. I looked the cowboy straight in the eye and said something low enough for only him to hear, but enough to ruin all of Calder's plans. "Don't trust the man who brought you here." He paused, and in that moment, I knew everything was about to change. Behind me, Calder began to lose his patience, his voice growing louder, heavier, like a stake pounding the ground. His men moved, the Apaches moved forward, and I knew one wrong decision and this camp would be a battlefield. That was the first day I felt like I was no longer the child sent into hiding. That was the day Calder wanted to take me back to complete the biggest lie of his life. And also the day I knew if I didn't stand up now, everyone who had protected me would pay the price. As soon as the sheet was lifted, no one had time to breathe. The soldier Calder whose arm Ethan had broken was still lying on the ground, moaning softly but persistently like a mosquito. Another man stepped forward, his face red, his hand on the butt of his gun as if waiting to fire the first shot. Calder stepped closer to me, close enough to smell the gunpowder on his shirt. He didn't look at me much. He looked at Ethan, the look of someone familiar giving orders. "She's your wife, starting now." Ethan didn't nod or shake his head. He just stood still, rolling his shoulders slightly, as if considering whether to pull out his gun if things got worse. I saw his chest heave slightly, the breathing of someone who had fought. I knew Calder saw it, and he hated people who weren't afraid of him. An Apache warrior stepped between us, his voice firm. No forced marriage, no marriage here. Calder glanced over, smirking as if he had heard a joke. This is a white man's problem. Back off. The Apache did not back off. He stood in the middle, expressionless, his hand near the knife at his belt. Caleb, Calder's Igus soldier, stepped forward, his shotgun at his hip. No one said another word. No one apologized. No one counted down. The air was as thick as hot stone. Back off. The Apache warrior still did not move, and so Caleb fired first. The sound of the gun made the horses behind him stand up. With a snap, the Apache's arrow struck Caleb in the shoulder, sending him flying backward. He didn't fall, he was too heavy, but he staggered enough to lose his grip. Calder's eyes darkened. He drew his gun, not taking a clear aim, just aiming on instinct. I lunged to the left just as the bullet tore through my braid, burning hot in my ear. Ethan reacted faster than anyone. He grabbed Calder's wrist, spun hard, and punched him square in the hollow of his shoulder. It wasn't pretty, not cinematic, just rough, fast, and precise, the way a man who fought to live would. Calder fell back. His gun fell to the sand. The soldier on the right drew his pistol. I drew my knife and slashed across. The blade hit the back of his hand. He screamed. The gun fell, blood trickling into the hot sand. Another Apache grabbed the other soldier by the neck, slamming him down. His head hit the ground with a dull thud, more terrifying than the gunshot. In just a few seconds, the whole wedding turned into a small brawl, but enough for everyone to understand that this was no longer a family matter. This was a fight for survival. Calder tried to sit up. An Apache held an arrow to his neck. I stepped forward, without shouting, without trying to be strong. I only said one sentence. "You are not taking me anywhere." Calder spat blood on the ground, his voice hoarse. "Without me, you will be hunted to death." I bent down to pick up my scarf, shook it off, and tied it behind me. I have been hunted for half my life, not because of me, because of you. Calder looked around. His men were down, the Apaches were not shaken. Ethan stood there, ready to fight again if he tried anything. In that moment, he knew he could not win here. Calder pushed himself up, wobbling, but still holding his powerful posture. "I'll be back, and I'll bring more than these guys." Then, try. The Apaches opened the way for Calder's men to retreat, not out of respect, but because they wanted him to move quickly to avoid more bloodshed on their land. When Calder was far away, Ethan looked at me. He didn't ask if I was okay, he didn't try to touch me, he just said one short sentence: "They will come back." I tied my knife back on, tightened my reins. "I know, and I won't run again." Ethan nodded slightly, saying nothing more, like someone who understood that this wasn't the war he'd chosen. It was the war he'd been dragged into. We stood in the middle of the Apache camp, the smell of gunpowder still in the air, blood streaking the sand. Everyone was silent. No one sighed. No one congratulated themselves for having won the battle. There was no such joy in the West. From the moment the first shot rang out, I knew Calder would not stop until one of us was finished. After the fight, the Apache camp was unusually quiet. No one spoke, but everyone knew Calder would not tolerate being humiliated in front of the entire tribe. A man like him had only two ways to react: revenge or greater revenge. The chief invited Ethan and I into the main tent. There was no ceremony, just the fire, the smell of dried meat, and the sound of the wind outside. The chief looked straight at me first, not at Ethan. "You have chosen. From now on, everything that follows is yours." It was not a warning. It was a truth of the West. Every choice had a price. I sat down, my back still sore from the dive. Ethan stood against a wooden post, his hand bandaged from the fight. No one was being heroic, no one was being too strong, just tired, unfocused. The chief laid an old goatskin map down in the middle of the tent. He pointed to a large area of land, farther out toward Red Mesa. It was the area that had once been my home, the Calder Ranch. "This land is in your name." Ethan looked at the map, his expression changing. Not, "Wow, what a big land" surprise, but the realization that he had just gotten himself into something 10 times bigger than he had imagined. "Calder says otherwise." The chief chuckled, the kind of laugh that was all too familiar with white men's lies. That's a strange thing for a guy like him to say. I didn't say anything. I'd known this for a long time, since I'd been brought to Apache after the ranch fire. But hearing it again still made my stomach clench. Calder transferred the land to me to keep it from being taken by a legal opponent. But to use that land, he needed me, or a legal husband, to decide for me. Forced marriage had nothing to do with feelings. It had to do with paperwork and ownership. Ethan let out a short, bitter laugh. So I was brought here to sign for you. The chief nodded. If you marry, Calder has the right. If you don't marry, he loses everything. In that moment, everything clicked together. There was no protection, no father caring for his daughter. Calder needed my name, not me. I gripped the edge of the wooden table so tightly, my knuckles turned white. If he loses everything, what will he do next? The chief didn't answer, but he pushed a small leather pouch toward me. I opened it. Inside was a piece of burnt cloth.